Okay, so
all right. Different day, different place.
So we went to this little town, Plymouth Notch,
Plymouth Notch, is that what?
and it's where Calvin Coolidge was born, lived, got married there.
Inaugurated as
President there. And they have maintained a lot of these buildings just as they were.
Yeah, like his house, his store.
Little schoolhouse and
the barns and things. Which it's really weird because it's a regular town. Like it's still the town.
Regular road that drives through.
What's it? Plymouth Notch. Like so, Plymouth Notch, Vermont is still Plymouth Notch, Vermont. Like, but there's like 5 or 6 buildings that are part of this museum, Calvin Coolidge thing. And we didn't know that. Like, so we we pulled into the parking lot of the Calvin Coolidge Museum, and then went up. Then we did some stuff there, and then went up to the buildings and looked at everything. It was real cool and everything. But then every time you go to a building, it said, "Hey, you got to have a ticket to go in there." I'm like, "Yeah, I thought that's what we bought tickets for, like in the building." Still didn't realize it was regular. It was a town, like, and then you'd see these cars like drive through. I'm like, well, how are these people just driving through this museum? Well, it's not really a
we
museum.
came through an entrance, but you could just literally just drive through the middle of it.
Yeah. Which we did when we left. We went up and drove the RV up through like through the town, and then but you couldn't really go anywhere, so you had to turn around and come back. So everybody's like, well, who are these idiots? Like just drove through and then turned around and come back. But,
and they also have they had a Plymouth cheese factory, which I think he and his dad owned.
Or something. He had something. He had bought into the cheese factory or something like
and
that.
It's made like with the original recipe. Sounds like KFC.
Yeah.
But so we bought some of that.
It's like a museum, but it's really still a working cheese factory. So it's kind of like the Wisconsin.
Yeah, you go in, you actually watch them making it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Learned it had a big poster about all the different cows and how much milk they produce and all this kind of stuff. So Holsteins are like 8 something gallons a year or something like that. Yeah. Like the next closest was like 6,000 gallons a year or something. Like pretty significant. Which is I guess why you use the Holsteins for milk cows. But
then there was this barn that had all of these carriages in there and hearses and
the hearses were
the
cool.
Stoves.
They had a winter. They had a winter.
Stoves.
Yeah, they had a winter hearse, which was it was just a cart that was glass thing.
I mean, you've seen them in the movies, like the old movies. Yeah.
But I've never seen the winter one. The winter one was the same thing, but it was on skis. So I guess you can bury them in the winter still.
But yeah, a lot of stuff like that, like washboards and just a lot of old stuff like that. So they had a lot of really. It
was really cool. I didn't understand. Every time we were going there, I'm like, why are we going to this place? Why are we going to this place?
Just wait, because they say it's really.
Yeah,
it's really
it was really cool.
It was. We enjoyed it.
Yeah. Till we got there, it was like, why? Who's Calvin Coolidge? Like, which apparently, like, so and that's why I say he was inaugurated there. So he was the vice president, and Garfield, I think, died in office in D.C. And Coolidge was at home, and his dad, he was at his house.
Yeah, his dad.
Yeah, and his dad was a notary public in like the sheriff or something like that. So they got a phone call and said, "Hey, like you're going to be the president." He said, we need to get you sworn in. And he's like, "Well, here, my dad's a notary public." Like, yeah, that's enough. That's all you need. So his dad, like, they got a phone call. And his dad, like, all right, ready to take your oath.
Yeah.
And his dad swore him in as president right there in the living room of his house in Plymouth Notch, Connecticut. So that was pretty cool. It's interesting. That's kind of interesting stuff I like.
Yeah.
Bizarre or not, but pretty cool. So then we left there and then went down to, I guess, Massachusetts.
Yeah. We went to the Norman Rockwell Museum.
Yeah.
Which was nice, very nice.
Yeah.
They also had a Mad magazine.
Well, I guess so. The Norman Rockwell Museum and stuff is that's there, but it's then they also have other exhibits and stuff, and it just happened to be which we didn't understand at first. I'm like, why is all this Mad magazine stuff in there? Like, we wanted to see the Norman Rockwell stuff. So they have like 2 or 3 rooms with Norman Rockwell stuff, a lot of his paintings. I didn't realize his paintings were actually big giant oil paintings. Like he when all the covers and stuff like for the magazines and stuff like that, those were pictures of his oil paintings, and some of them were huge. So
and they did really a really nice way of displaying them. So sometimes they would have like his first draft of it, and it would be a little bit different, and then they would have the one next to it. It was kind of like you could pick what was different.
Yeah.
And then they did some other things like that, like.
Yeah, they would, you know, kind of talk about like how he came up with it, like the freedom of speech was a guy like, so that was he was, you know, he was tasked to do paintings on certain things, and so like this one he was trying to figure out, he couldn't think of what to do, and he was actually at a town meeting in this town, and whatever, one of his neighbors stood up and said, well, this is BS, like, we shouldn't be doing that. So he got up and gave a speech. Well, he went back and thought, he's like, that's what I'm going to do that, because nobody agreed with the guy, but everybody let him talk. And so he said his piece, they got done, he sat back down, and he was like, yeah, that was important, that's significant, because you should be able to say what you want to say without being ostracized, and like, so even though you don't convince anybody, you should still be able to say it. So, and that was his neighbor up there, but in the picture, he didn't think his neighbor looked good enough, so he had another neighbor. Yeah, a different neighbor. So he had this different neighbor pose, doing the same thing, and pose for the picture. So, like that backstory, it was kind of was very cool about all that. So,
but he did that a lot. Like he used real people and.
Yeah, and they have his house at the thing, which was down in town, like which the town was like just that was used in a lot of the like the. There was a market and all that, like all that stuff. Like was really there's people's houses and cars and stuff like that that are labeled in some of the paintings and stuff like that. And his house was there, and it was right outside of town. It was kind of up on a hill a little bit. And come to find out, it had these huge picture windows on there, which is just perfect. And they had moved the house up to the museum area. So when you see it, you're like, oh, that makes all the sense. Like the guy really just sat in his living room with this giant picture window and looked at town and said, what am I going to use these people to tell a story about? Pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed
that.
Then from there, we went to...
then we went
to Dr. Suess.
Yeah, Dr. Suess.
Which was fun. We were like big kids in there.
Yeah, that was Springfield, Massachusetts. So that was coming out of Vermont, and then when you go into Western Massachusetts, was different.
So we originally had this plan that we were going to hit like all the Springfields in the United States, because that's the most used name for
there's like 36 of them or something.
So we had this list of Springfields, and so we started just kind of checking out what would be in some of the Springfields, and most of them wasn't anything, so the idea kind of fizzled out. But when we looked up Springfield, Massachusetts, we found Dr. Suess Museum.
Yeah, and some of the things we came up with were like we were way too busy to we would just sidebar stuff to keep us occupied. There was more stuff to do than we really had time. So we moved a lot, and still we're just racing through to get to see everything. And we went to Western Massachusetts. That was when the RV we started getting all kind of people are stopping us, asking about us, like, hey, how much? Like this one guy's like, hey, how much does that cost? And I was like, what? He was like, lower your window. I thought I just assumed something was wrong. I had a door open or something like that. Yeah. And he's like, how much is it and everything? And he was like, well, how many bedrooms are in there? And then there were people would just walk through the crosswalks and give us thumbs up and stuff like that.
And smile at us.
And we're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Lock all the doors, babe. So that was the first time we locked the thing up really since we started. We started locking them. We took the batteries off the bikes and just kind of, it was a different vibe. And we stood out a lot. Apparently a lot of people in Springfield, Massachusetts don't see RVs. So. Yeah.
But the Dr. Suess
Museum.
I say there was an outdoor park.
Hold on, I'm talking about parking. So we go to park in the place, and the guy's like, he's like, no, you can't park here. He's like, there's nowhere to park. And then, so he comes out of the museum. He's like, you can't park here. There's no room. I'm like, all right. So he's like, you got to park across the street. So we're like, okay. So we started coming out, and the guy in the parking lot across the street, and it's a private park. And he's like, no, don't come in here. Don't even bring it in here. So we think, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be able to park this thing. Nobody, don't even let us in the parking lots. And so we went up the road a little bit and turned around the corner, and there was like 3 or 4 2-hour street parking places. So I just took up 2 spots, and we set a timer, and so we had 2 hours to do Dr. Seuss museum. So then we went to the Dr. Seuss museum, and we didn't realize what it was like.
Well, there's like these like a garden, and it had like little statues and everything, which was it was really nice. We took a bunch of pictures, and
right.
It was that was really cute. Well, then there was like
I thought that's all it was.
Yeah. Then there was like this art that looked like the cover of one of his books, kind of.
Yeah.
And when you go through there was like a whole other museum, and it was like the books come to life.
Yeah, all the rooms were decorated, like everything. All the rooms were done up that way.
Yeah.
And the lady that was, I guess, kind of managing or whatever, because it's a university. I guess it's a state university or something like that. So it's an art museum, and then they have this whole building just for the Dr. Seuss stuff. And she was really cool. She was super cool. She
made it really fun.
Yeah,
she's taking our pictures for us.
Yeah.
And
she's like, go sit on the bike. You got to sit on the bike.
Everybody sits on the bike.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, are you going to play the light brights or whatever? Because she was like taking all the things out, and we're like, huh? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. And
yeah, so, she's like, lick the wall. The snozzberries taste like snozzberries. Oh wait, no, that was a different place.
But anyway, so that was fun. We played around in there and looked at all the
different rooms and posed with
there was actually a lot of information about the author and his family. His family had donated a bunch of stuff to the museum.
Yeah, like his studio, some of his original studio
his
places,
actual scribblings
furniture
and little his notepads and stuff.
Oh, what was his nose? Yeah, so it's
like,
because whatever the guy's name is, it's not Dr. Seuss, but like his Seuss is his mom's maiden name, and then whatever his first name is, whatever. But anyway, so he wrote like he would write notes to everybody, and I guess he had all these pads of paper, and it was Cat in a Hat. So it had the Cat in a Hat kind of drawing on there, and then he would write notes to a bunch to people, just whatever random stuff, people, fans or relatives, and like happy birthday to his niece or something like that. And he would make these little rhymes and stuff like that along with it. So, there was a thing in there too. They talked about like how frivolous he was. Like he would just make up these little rhymes and send them out to people. So these Seuss notes were all over the place. But they said, unlike what he did when he wrote his books, that he would just critique the over and over and over again to get the perfect wording. But he would just write in these prose, these little for these notes, and so they were somewhat kind of cute and everything like that. But it was just not as they were a lot more haphazard than he was very thoughtful in his books, even though it was very similar rhymes and stuff like that. So.
Well, then with our little tickets to the Dr. Seuss museums, we also got a ticket to an art museum. Yeah. So we went in and looked at
which had a Monet exhibit.
Stuff.
Tiffany's in Monet, and we're like, oh, Monet, I want to go see that.
Yeah, we really wanted to see the Monet, and for some reason
they didn't tell us that the
Monet
room was closed off.
A little bit disappointed about
Could
that.
put that out front.
Yeah. But there was some really nice stuff in there.
The Tiffany
cool. Stuff was really neat. Yeah. It was really cool. And then was there another museum we went into? I think there was a couple more we could have gone into.
We looked around.
Our 2 hours was. Yeah. We spent a lot of time in Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. Spent a lot of time in Seuss Land. So. Yeah. But I did not want to get a boot or something towed on that thing. So we did Dr. Seuss, and also Naismith NBA Basketball Hall of Fame is there just up the road, like literally a mile down the street. So
we popped in there for a minute and looked around.
Yeah, that was interesting. Of course, we went in and saw Michael Jordan had his little big thing right there. It was cool though. Outside, like they had the statue, the Naismith statue kind of thing, and it was.
They had all
Tubby
these
Smith was on there. Coach Cal. Who else? Oh, and then from Louisville. Of course, Pitino. But what is the other guy? The older guy. Yeah, we're horrible. I'm not a big basketball fan. She's from Kentucky. Went to UK, and she can't think. Joby Hall.
Oh yeah. Joby Hall.
Yeah, and then whoever the Louisville guy, they used to say Joby Hall and the other guy used to
They
have.
had Dick Vitale and I don't know
Yeah,
all
okay,
these
but-
other people. I don't know. But.
Yeah. But there was a lot of Kentucky coach representation out there. That was pretty cool. So UK stuff. So
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool. And then so then we left Springfield. Oh, I think we stopped at a couple. We trying to do stopped at a couple of Goodwills or something like that, looking for like winter clothes and things like that. It's always good stuff. But it's always kind of good use of time, I guess. So. And then went to Foxborough to go visit some friends of mine, and stop in and see them again. So,
Yep.
all right.
All right, I think that's Massachusetts.